Okay, this is our fundamentals of dimensioning, and this is just a practice activity. If we don't get these parts modeled perfectly and dimensioned perfectly, that's okay. We're still learning. I could just continue to add tabs to my intro to CAD blocks, but the way Onshape works, that's fine. We can pull parts from here if we want to dimension, which we probably will pull one or two from here. I'm going to go ahead and create a new document, and let's call this Fundamentals of Dimensioning, or we could call it Fun Dimensioning for short. So let's start out, and what we're going to need to do first is model at least two of the 3D printed challenge parts that we already should have hand sketches and dimensions of. So we will go ahead and start with a sketch on the front plane. And we, of course, are going to just model this. We're going to model the window part here. So let's start with the a square or rectangle. So we're going to make sure we use the origin. And it is 1.125 by 1.125. So we'll go ahead and dimension that. Hit the green check mark. Go ahead and extrude. Select the profile. I always like to come back to an isometric view so I can see what's happening. And let's extrude that a depth of 0.75 inches. Okay, so that would be like the depth of the window. All right, next, let's go ahead and we're going to add that little step. So we're going to select the front face. Again, it's highlighted in orange. Let's look at it head on so we can see what's happening. And this is going to get into something I really don't like about how Onshape works, and we'll see what happens here when we do this. I want to draw this little step here. So I'm going to, of course, make sure I pick my origin, and then when I come over here, I get the little coincident constraint that says, hey, we're going to be on the side of this line. We're going to be on this line, and that's what that little coincident constraint means. So as soon as I click that, it gives me a blue line and two black lines in numbers. So if I come down here and I hit enter, it automatically says, whoa, I don't like this. Remember, red numbers or red sketches are bad with Onshape. It says, I don't like this. And watch what happens here. Even when I try to make this a 1/4 inch like it's supposed to be, nothing happened. That was 0.4 something inches a second ago, and I typed a 1/4 inch and nothing changed. It didn't jump down a little bit like it should have. And the reason for that is this line is coincident and we're trying to define it. Now both of those numbers happen to be, or the number and the coincident constraint happen to be getting us to the same place. So when it says sketch cannot be solved, what we just need to do is undo the dimensions. So let's undo putting those dimensions on. So what we're going to do when we draw our rectangle, okay, let's get the rectangle tool again here. My mouse is a little click happy. When I get that dimension, if I want to make sure, I have to actually type fewer numbers. If I want to make sure it's on that line, I can just type it and hit escape to get out of the tool, and then come up and grab my dimension tool. So now you see we don't get an error that says dimension cannot be solved. And I don't really like the way that Onshape works in this respect, but it's what we have to work with right now. So we would dimension that little step that we have at a 1/4 inch. We'll go ahead and hit the check mark. We're good to go. Let's zoom back out and go ahead and extrude that. And we're going to extrude that, 0.375. Okay, 3/8 of an inch. So now we have the little step there. And again, what we are modeling here is additive and subtractive modeling. So we started with the basic shape of the square, and we added onto it. And now we need to cut away the window. Okay, so now we're going to cut that little window. So let's pick a sketch. We want to make sure we click the front face, and then we'll get the rectangle tool, come down, make sure we are on the rectangle. We want to make sure that that line turns orange. And this time when I draw that, because I'm not constraining to an edge yet, it's not going to give me that error that I had a moment ago with the other rectangle that we had. So we of course want to have a width of 0.375 and a height of 1/2 inch. And then you'll notice that we still have a couple of blue lines. So that means it's not fully constrained yet. We want to fully constrain it. So let's grab the dimension tool and measure from one line to the side. And of course, that also needs to be 0.375, 3/8 of an inch. Okay, let's switch back to isometric mode. And when I do my extrude now, I'm going to select the rectangle for the window and remove. And what I always want to do, and we see this is wanting to remove an inch backwards by default, but instead of making this a blind, if it's cutting through everything, always do through all. So then if I would happen to need to change the size for some reason, we're always cutting all the way through. Okay, so there's the little window part.